Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. And right now, it's $3.45 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency. The market is off 1.6% right now. Bitcoin, 109,000 plus. Ethereum, 2,500 plus. XRP at the number 4 spot is $2.25. We're up 1.6 on the 24, and we're up 5.6 on the 7-day. Some people would say, careful what you call progress. I say, let it rip. We're ranging between $2.21 and $2.30. We will keep an eye on it. I want to tell you right now, though, about Caleb and Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, listen, if you're tired of not having the kind of hand-in-glove customer service, white glove customer service in the crypto space, well, now you found it. This is why. You get free institutional grade custody, no hidden fees, no spreads, and you got one flat rate. And you're paying for that amazing hands-on customer service. Multiple layers, insurance on the accounts. They have it. I'm telling you, don't believe these people out here spreading FUD now. XRPWealth589.com and find out for yourself. And congratulations to Caleb and Brown, by the way, which was just picked up in a big acquisition by SwiftX. So shout out to them, which is a very big Australian exchange. And I tell you what, you just contact these people and find out how incredible it's going to be. You're going to start getting the best night's sleep you've ever had since you've been into crypto. You just watch what will happen. Let's start with the news right here. And before we kick this off, I have to say, you guys know I always talk about, I'm doing a fitness journey, the wife and I, and we're on this journey, and we've brought in what we now refer to as the mean gym lady. You all know that's what I call her, but she's sitting right here today, and I'm 3 feet away from me right now, and she heard me say it, and I'm telling you, I'm going to get my ass kicked when we go into this gym later on, but I think she's going to be making her debut very soon in the YouTube world, and we'll clue you all in when it happens, because you're going to want to know what she's doing, and it is all health related, which, you know what, should be everyone's #1 job, so stay tuned for that, and shout out to her. And the truth is, she's not mean at all, actually, and I'm sure that you probably figured that out by now. Anyway, right now we see the odds of the big, beautiful tax bill passing have soared to 90%. And I say, you know what? Why don't we just make that 100 and get it done? It's $5 trillion worth of tax relief. I think we're going to need to get that done. All right, let's look at this. Now, this is President Trump's executive director, coming a little closer back to crypto. The executive director says that the crypto industry is going to $15 to $20 trillion after stablecoin legislation becomes law. Well, I just told you it was 3.3, 3.4 trillion. So we're talking another $11.5 trillion coming into this space in short order. Yeah, I don't think I'll be selling for a minute. That's kind of my mindset on that one, not financial advice. But, again, I do have some price targets, $8 to $10 for my shallow bags. I might take some profits then if Mrs. Backup doesn't kill me, because I know if I don't, she'll be very mad. But this is a really important post. First of all, shout out to Meta Law man, James Murphy. He's amazing, and he was incredible at XRP Las Vegas on stage with all the other incredible lawyers and Eleanor Terrett. And he says here, and I think this is a fantastic reminder. He says, many are asking, why invest in Bitcoin treasury companies when you can just buy the Bitcoin yourself? He says, so I find this funny. Yesterday, he received a message from a hedge fund that will invest in Bitcoin treasury companies. In other words, they offered me the opportunity to pay a Wall Street guy a 2% management fee with 20% take on my 100% profit to be 2 steps removed from just owning the Bitcoin. True story. And you know what? This is exactly why I said this the other day as well, and I'm saying it again here. Anyone selling or offering a 220 model, 2% management fee with 20% take on your profit model for exposure to crypto is simply trying to put themselves between you, your money, and your assets. Run! Run! Run, Forrest. Yeah. Listen, look, this is what I got to say about this. You know, look, this we have to, as we move into this new digital age and this new digital on-chain economy, we all use these catchphrases and all of this, but are we really sitting down to understand what it means? What does this space really look like when this new innovation is set in? Well, I'll tell you what it looks like in this regard. Why would I ever, in my whole life, ever give somebody 2 and 20 fee when I could just have exposure to the assets myself? Now, I self-direct my own portfolio anyway. And in this day of democratization of finance, isn't that the whole goal? It isn't my house. And here's SEC Chair Paul Atkins talking about tokenization is an innovation, and the agency is committed to advancing it. Oh, and does he mention something we've talked about on here? Take a listen.
Innovation. And we at the SEC should be focused on how do we advance innovation in the marketplace. And so I would argue here over the last several years, the SEC has been standing athwart efforts to innovate in the marketplace because things have been unclear. The rules have not been clear. We've had regulation through enforcement. That day is over. We are now, my whole goal is to make things transparent, from the regulatory aspect, and give people a firm foundation upon which to innovate and to come out with new products, and so that they know what they're doing.
I think there are two things to think about, Andrew, and that's tokenization of U.S. stocks, which is one thing which could drive a lot of cost savings for all parties.
I'm not against tokenization.
And settlement times would be reduced.
I'm talking about if you wanted to
tokenizing
SpaceX, which is a private company.
And then there's also an access to private credit, I think you were mentioning, which is a complete individual investor access to private credit, which is also another sort of tricky area in that this is also, as you mentioned, it's not as much liquidity. Valuations are very difficult, particularly, I would imagine, for an individual investor. I mean, there are a lot of things that here that are new frontiers for investors. Where do you stand on that?
Well, two questions. So as far as tokenization and other innovations in the marketplace to make trading and holding securities easier and with quick settlement, my predecessor pushed for what we call T+1, meaning settlement and clearance the day after the trade.
Remember that? Now looky here. And what do we have? Remember when we covered this back in February of 2022? Yeah. Remember that?
Settlement. How do commissioners vote on the division's recommendations to amend the Securities Exchange Act on clearing and settling?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. The recommendation is approved unanimously.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Paul Atkins just referenced right there from 3 years ago. That's what's going on here. Look, I'm not doing it as I told you so. I'm doing it because it shows we're over the target. All the things that how many times we've had people within our own community tell us to stop talking about this stuff. They're the ones that are on the wrong side of history, not us. And guess who else is talking about tokenization, real world asset tokenization? This guy right here talking about the XRP ledger. Come on in.
Part for me, tokenized real world assets. Now, I mentioned in the beginning, like NFTs, I love these things. And for me, where I think that this can eventually go is these real world assets of tokenized securities. When I have this liquidity.
Isn't that exactly what we just heard Paul Atkins say, the new SEC chair? Stay with me now. And then what do we see? We get the announcement yesterday that Ripple is now seeking a U.S. banking license. Not just any banking license, a national banking charter through the Office of Comptroller of Currency. You know, the agency that oversees every bank in the United States of America. Yeah. And that national banking charter would get also a master account through standard custody, which would connect directly to the Federal Reserve, which means what? That the Federal Reserve would officially be able to hold the digital dollar, the real USD, issued by Ripple. This is why I've always said Ripple is the Federal Reserve 2.0. I feel like Ripple is being designed in part to facilitate the new digital economy overseeing the issuance of the digital dollar from the digital economy. Remember, the Fed's not allowed to issue a digital dollar. So that's where Ripple comes in, I believe, and this only gets bigger as we move forward. Now listen to Matt Hogan, who's amazing. He was at XRP Las Vegas, and listen to what he says here in regard to the fundamentals and not speculation driving the market. And that's exactly what we're about to see happen for assets like XRP. We're going to see all kinds of real world tokenization that provides the ability, once we have all the laws passed, for this new individual or digital chain on-chain economy to operate just like the markets operate today, but much more efficient, much more scalable, and much more secure. Right? Take a listen to this.
All items of value are going to move over blockchain networks. I just call it a few things that you just said there, Abs, because it was an incredible run through. The Secretary of Treasury expects the market for stablecoins to something like 14x over the next 4 years. That's not a degen trader. That's not a YOLO retail investor. That's the Secretary of Treasury, like the lead financial person in the US, arguably in the world, saying this market's going to 14x over the next 4 years. And you look at just the recent announcements that we've seen, I don't know, in the past week, you had Robinhood talking about tokenizing stocks for public and private companies. Yep. You have Kraken launching tokenized stocks. It's just clear to me that the things we've been saying in crypto for so many years about it being a more efficient system to move all items of value are coming into the world now. Right. And they've been repressed again from a regulatory perspective. It couldn't happen under the previous administration. But now that we have regulatory relief, now that we maybe have a stablecoin bill, now that we maybe have a market structure bill, now that we maybe have spot-based ETFs that allow institutional capital to invest in that space, I think it's going to go very fast, very far, probably faster and further than people expect. These technologies, once they start moving up the exponential curve, it happens really fast. And I think we're right at that point. I do think in 5 years, most assets will move over tokenized networks, and the leading blockchains that facilitate that obviously will be extraordinarily valuable.
No question, and always well said by Matt, no doubt about it. Then some quick news here just to show you the proliferation of what's going on out here, the work that Ripple's doing here. Ripple to serve enterprise-grade stable coins. This is Ripple and OpenPaid. We covered it yesterday. Very quickly, Ripple also just minted another $14 million of real USD. And then Ripple and BitMEX become the first exchange to offer real USD as margin for derivatives trading. So there you have that step forward. And then this announced, Amina Bank, Swiss-based Amina Bank, becomes the first global bank to support Ripple's new stablecoin real USD, according to CoinDesk. And then we see this. Coming back to the supply, the 14 million that were just issued yesterday. What is this for? It's not you and I getting this. To me, I'm speculating. This is the institutions taking a position, waiting for everything to become law. They're taking a position because we know that they're set up to be one of the most highly transparent stable coins and digital assets, XRP, on the planet. Why is that? Because the financial system is going to use this stuff. And this is why it takes so long to get it cleared. Senior Director Engineering Ripple explaining collateralized lending on the XRP ledger. Listen, DeFi and lending is the next wave of utility coming to this space. And make no mistake about it, banks are going to be taking a massive position in this. For over a decade, they've been watching all of their customers go home and buy Bitcoin and XRP and other assets on their computer with the money they took out of the bank. You think they're not ready to get into this space and start offering crypto? Just you wait. Just you wait. And what about actual price discovery? We don't even have it yet. Listen to Chris Giancarlo break down exactly how price discovery is even derived.
As I explained to your audience today, I see crypto as much more than just a new asset class, but really a new architecture of finance, a new way of establishing who owns what and who's transferring what to whom, using the internet as the basis for establishment of that value, as opposed to the individual balance sheets of proprietary institutions. It's a new architecture, a new protocol for establishing value. in any commodity market, the price of the underlying commodity is actually not set in the physical or the spot market. The price is set in the derivative markets. Mature derivative markets are essential for price discovery because it's the one place that all the buyers and sellers can come together to agree on price. That's why the price of gold is not set in a jewelry shop. It's set in the derivatives market. The price of wheat is not set at a grain elevator. It's set in the derivative markets. The price of oil is not set at the gas pump. It's set in the derivative markets. So establishing well-functioning, healthy derivatives for crypto will provide a solid basis for price discovery and price setting for crypto.
Let me stop that right there. And listen, I want to say to this, and I want to go to this clip because this is a clip where I asked Chris Giancarlo about whether the U.S. Treasury will actually offer, and let me see if I can get this lined up properly. There it is right there. If the U.S. government and Treasury will actually offer U.S. digital asset bond issuance.
They're floating a lot of ideas, Chris, about how to acquire some of these digital assets. Are you hearing anything about the different suggestions on that? And there's obviously, I've talked about this. I know other people have floated the idea. Is it out of the realm of possibility to consider that there would be a new bond issuance of digital assets in the future? Not next Tuesday, but in the future.
Oh, I think it's more than a possibility. Yeah. I think you're going to see it at multiple levels. I think you're going to see it at the corporate level. I think you'll see it at municipal levels. And I think ultimately you'll see it at the national level.
That's incredible right there. And when I think about Bo Hines, the executive director for Trump, talking about 15 to 20 trillion dollars coming into this space after the stablecoin legislation becomes law, or the U.S. Treasury Secretary saying that the stablecoin market is going to 14 times. Are you kidding me? 15 to 20 trillion coming into this market in short order after stablecoin legislation becomes law. Like, again, this is not a YouTuber. This is President Trump's executive director of crypto. These numbers are staggering, and who they're coming from are even more staggering. And then I say to myself, well, how does that much money come into this space? Well, I think I just played it for you. They're going to introduce U.S. digital asset bonds and start selling them to American citizens, just like wartime bonds in World War II. Yeah, don't believe it. It's still true. Let's take a look at this before we get out of here. Eggrag Crypto says short-term price target. You close above 235 and we're bullish. But if you close above 242, we're super bullish. So either way you look at it, things are looking up, ladies and gentlemen. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. That's it for me. Say a prayer. The mean gym lady is about to destroy me and Mrs. Backup in the gym today, especially after what I said. So say a prayer for me, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Hit the like and subscribe, share with somebody below, and I will catch all of you on the next one.